in the journey of trying to figure out how to stay active and fit as adults, I wanted to make sure we talked to Brian Callahan. Brian is a physical educator turned administrator, husband, father of 2 kids, and is working on his EDD, trying to become a doctor, Dr. Callahan, and is still managing to stay super active and fit. And he's got all kinds of cool things going on. So I wanted to pick his brain a little bit about what he's up to. He's doing some really cool things with sauna, rucking. He's been in the CrossFit world and is still pretty active in some of the lifting things. So always good to talk to somebody that I call a self-experimenter and trying different things. So what's going on, Brian?
Hey, Nick, I appreciate you having me. This is a good time to talk and explore some ideas and some of the nuttiness I've been doing to stay active, especially with, all those things you just mentioned: family, education, work. I think a lot of people kind of fall in this realm, and it's just, like you said, self-experiment right now.
Yeah. How are things? I think it's interesting that you've switched from the education world to now the administrative world. How have things changed for you personally? And what are you seeing with the kids?
Sure. And I think the most comical thing, I remember my first day on the job of being a school administrator as assistant principal is what I'm doing right now. And that's sitting down. And
Yeah.
I think it sounds crazy, but, I sat down my first day and I was like, this is different. Like, this is tough for me to do. And you can see as I'm rocking back and forth, I just have an knack to kind of move my body. So being a phys ed teacher, I was on my feet and I was probably averaging close to 20,000 steps, during the school day. So, taking that passion from the classroom into administration, I think it's still aimed at the right reasons. I want to make bigger change. I want to make sure, we're educating our kids the best way. And also, I think the aspect of leadership was a big part of why I chose to, pursue administration. And that's what I'm continuing to do through my EDD program, is continue this leadership role. But that big change from, going from coach in a CrossFit setting and a coach athletically for schools that I coach for, and also just being a PE teacher, different world, obviously, being in here and being in an office, but I try to get out as much as I can. I try to make my environment as healthy as possible. I have a standing desk that I use all the time. I try to limit how much I sit per day. But, another thing is just getting in the hallways, walking with the kids, talk to them. And so finding new ways to be practicing healthy lifestyles throughout has definitely been a challenge. Now, this is my 3rd year, but I seem to be more and more engaged and moving my body around. Right now, we're currently a remote setting, so there's limited people here in the building. So good thing I have the master key, because I go and shoot some hoops for my breaks. If I need to take a second to gather my thoughts or whatever, I'm definitely moving around.
So you're in a setting where you're able to at least get out and do some different things, and that's really interesting to hear. And the thing I take when I listen to you talk, since I've known you, you've worn so many different hats, right? You've been a CrossFit coach, you've done track. At one point, you were teaching archery in gym class to people. But it's always been a leadership, and it's a coaching perspective. And I think if you can coach young kids how to do a novel task, right, I think the things that you learn in trying to explain those skills is invaluable. So it's really cool. I'm really excited to kind of see the future of kind of what you do with the administrative stuff. I think it's cool. What are you seeing with, obviously yourself, you're sitting more, but now we got kids that are virtual. They're at home. They're in front of their computers all day. How are the teachers handling that? How are you handling that? What are you seeing with the kids, like their activity levels?
Sure. And that's a great question. And I would say that traditional setting right now with kids being virtual, their activity levels probably have plummeted quite a degree. Our PE teachers doing a great job and trying to get the kids to, be active and log certain things. And a lot of kids are taking that approach. I mean, they still see this no matter what the setting they're in, that it is still school. And with that being said, we definitely see some kids participating and doing these activities. We still have sports going on. So there is a population of our kids that are still being active. But when we look at just the general population of students, when we take away this physical setting of PE and being in the gym away from them, and that might be their only time of being physically active, it definitely does hurt them overall. And so what we're seeing a little bit more, and it depends on our students, but you know, a lot of them need to get that energy out, and that was such a great outlet for our students. But what we're having our students do curriculum wise is that they're trying to log some of their fitness stuff that they're doing. And so and our PE teachers trying to have them look in and do some self-analysis, and then also report back to him. And so it's definitely something in which I don't know if we see it. You know, we talk about the mental health aspect of our students a lot, especially during this time of remote learning. And so, and which has, you know, a big forefront of why, because, you know, we're seeing a lot of possible self-harm issues, and just the fact that they're being isolated away from other people at times is tough. And we realize that. But also, I think we haven't spoken enough about the physical activity of our kids. And so, you know, the more active our kiddos are, the more healthy they are, the better they perform on the standardized testing that we're always, you know, talking about. So, you know, it has a good correlation, not causation, but to our academic concerns as well.
That's interesting. That tracking their fitness and having them report logs, is that something you guys are doing locally, or is that a statewide initiative?
It's a local thing that we're doing, specifically at our school. And I don't know if our high school is doing something. I would assume that they're doing something pretty similar. Whereas some of the elementaries, it's more of like a calendar type of day. You know, they get to play some sort of like a bingo type of game, and they have, it's more obviously kid friendly at the elementary level, to where at the middle school and high school level, we're trying to establish some sort of like routine for the kids to do. And obviously that routine may change, and some of the stuff that, which you'll typically see in a PE setting, which is like you're talking about your games, you know, your basketball, ultimate frisbee, soccer, like these type of settings. It's obviously extremely difficult to do it at home by yourself. Right. So it's becoming more and more of this fitness aspect that we have in our PE standards. I believe that's, I think it's standard 3 or 4 from my knowledge of its fitness. And that was a big thing for me when I was a PE teacher. Is I came from a great college of Kent State University, in which, you know, the discussion of teaching games, of teaching kids how to play games, off the charts good. Like, we had great concepts, and the teachers that they produced coming out of there really knew how to teach kids how to play games. However, when I came out, I felt like I had a deficiency in the fitness world and understanding, like, if someone told me, like, what is the biomechanics of a push-up? I'm like, I don't know, 90 degrees in your elbow. And so it's one of those things to where, you know, that's how it got me into CrossFit. But now we're seeing that reemerge with our kids being at home. And I think the importance of teaching these kids, of our kids, how to do these movements correctly is important while we're here and while they're at that younger age in the elementary levels.
For sure. I thought it was interesting what you said about the test scores in education with the kids that are active. I recently found a study when we were doing a presentation on sitting and looking at anxiety in females, and I think the bottom end age in this study was 15. But they found that any level of exercise above and beyond their daily activity level was able to significantly reduce rates of anxiety and depression in young women.
Wow.
I mean, that's a crazy, and it didn't matter how level, like the intensity of the exercise, the quality of it didn't seem to matter. They just needed to do something.
Sure.
And I can't I can't explain how many young people I'm seeing on different medications, anti-anxiety medications and stuff in the clinic. You know, uh, you get a medical health history sheet from a teenager, you're not expecting to see much on there. And now you're starting to see medications and anti-anxiety things. And, you wonder how much of that could
Sure.
be, how much of that could we troubleshoot with simple things like getting these kids exercising. And of course, games and play are the best. And that social interaction, I think, is best. But right
Sure.
now,
Yeah, and you make a good point on that. The fact that which, we are seeing an uptick in mental health issues. And
hmm
as an elementary assistant principal, I was for 2 years. Like we would have our kiddos that would struggle with certain things in which, it wouldn't be as common in an elementary student compared to a middle school or high school student. And so you're seeing these stresses that our students are going through. And my thing is always kind of wondering, kind of the basic stuff like movement wise, diet wise, relationship wise, like are these healthy points for the student or our students? If not, like how can we mitigate it? Is it about giving the student maybe some more activity? Is it more, what we're eating? Is it, what you mentioned about sitting down? I think that these are all good points in which, we still need to analyze a little bit more and think about, yeah, I'm in this room, I'm in this box right now, in which I have the luxury of getting out and being able to do different things. And the reason why I do it, because I know the benefits. And, when I go do exercises, I feel better when I do it. And I think it's another part of just like understanding, hey, these healthy habits that we're developing, and then understanding how to fight against that voice that is telling you to go, uh, go play games or go eat ice cream or whatever it may be. I think that's a skill eventually, like we develop as people, whether you want to fight that voice or not. And I
yeah.
think being in athletics, you definitely have that when, you're running wind sprints and, you're huffing and puffing, but you still got to do two more. And it's, telling yourself, you got to do it. And so I think there's some aspects in which, we can all analyze a little bit more, but, going back to the basic stuff, like, are we exercising enough? Are we moving our bodies? And like you said, the quality of the exercise, well, that's different. I mean, that's one thing, but can we get out of our seats? Can we move our bodies? And what are we putting in our bodies? I think those are some questions that um, definitely need to be looked at further.
Yeah. I mean, it's an uncomfortable thing, right? It's easy to stay in your bed and in the environment. And right now we got, your COVID as a barrier to entry. And we're here in Ohio and it's snowing outside. And do you want to get all bundled up and dressed up to go do whatever outside? And it's certainly easier, right, to not pursue those things. And unless you've had the experiences that you've had where, yeah, you've recognized that, hey, when I go do this, I feel better. My mind's clear. I make better decisions. You've experienced that. But these kids, if they're not in athletics and right now especially, man, I could see where that would be a major hurdle, major challenge.
Sure. And, it's one of those things that you mentioned, the fact that, it's the quality of your exercise isn't, necessarily the make or break. It's just you doing it. And there was a recent study that just came out. It seemed to be getting some viral hits online, saying it was like 12 minutes, and you see benefits of definitely of just aerobic exercise. I believe Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she talked about it, and I think a big major news outlet also picked up on it. And I didn't get a chance to look at it too in depthly, but if Rhonda Patrick's talking about it, obviously it's got some stuff to it. But it's one of those things too, like, and that's part of what I'm trying to do now as an adult, and trying to better myself. Because you know what, I'm not CrossFitting. I'm not doing these high intensity workouts 3 days on, 1 day off anymore. So I'm finding new ways to do it. And you mentioned in the opening that I'm I'm doing a thing called rucking, which is backpack with a weight in it. Pretty much, it feels like old school, high school when you had to pack all your stuff from second period to seventh period, and you're just like walking around the whole time. That's kind of what it feels like. But and then you go walk, and it's one of those things where if I just have to have a little bit of weight on my back, or if I can just get out in nature and walk and hike, like I feel like I can do that. Like I feel like a lot of people can do that. And I have the luxury of I have an infrared sauna that I have at my house that I'm using, and that's like I sit there and I sweat it out, and it's one of the most refreshing things that I can do. And these two little things that I've picked up in recent past year or so have been huge for my overall well-being.
So I want to dive more into that transition of, you were CrossFitting at a pretty high level, right? However
Sure.
you want to define that, but you were working out pretty hard. Obviously life gets busy, kiddos start showing up, job, you keep jumping up the ladder and the job demands. Where and when did you see that transition happen where you felt like, I don't know, you needed these newer or these different versions of activity and fitness, and how'd you make those decisions?
Sure. And you hit it right on the head with the first part is kids. As you know, so my kind of backstory is my first son, Bennett, was a preemie, and he was a 26 weeker, in which my wife had complications beforehand with him. And so, when I think about that time in which we spent 106 days in the NICU, and a long time. I mean, it's definitely, and talking to some other people, I mean, it's some have been in there longer, some have been in there shorter, but I mean, it's 106 days.
A lot of days.
It's
How old is he now?
pretty wild.
How old is he now?
He's 4.
4? I was going to guess 4. Right.
Just turned 4. So yeah, I mean, so 4 years, and that's when I started kind of stepping away from coaching CrossFit, and I think when I think about that time, there's a great book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and basically whatever you do in life, know your why, and I think that knowing that process and having Bennett go through that and having my wife go through it, and as we went through that as a family, it definitely made you think about, what can I do better? And, as much as I love CrossFit and I love coaching it, and I still have a passion for patterns and the art of weightlifting and a lot of the things that these amazing athletes do, I knew I spent a lot of time at the gym, and that was a huge passion for me. But it was one of those things, like it's a balancing act. All right. I got something that's, part of me in my role now. So that's when I started veering kind of away, and it wasn't totally away. I was able to kind of replicate a gym, a garage gym that I had, in which I got pretty creative with some things, and I started doing my own thing at my own house. And, but it wasn't as frequent. It wasn't as intense. I would still go out with some of our friends and do workouts. But these workouts were different. It wasn't always, 21, 15, 9 and of certain patterns or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But I definitely kept that mindset of just a CrossFit mentality when you are doing something, kind of embrace the suck / be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so right when that happened, right when we had Bennett, that transition started to begin. Now that it's evolved and I've changed kind of career paths to a degree, it's definitely changed now, where I'm doing quite a lot of different things. Yet I still try to weight train multiple times a week. But at the same time, I'm trying to find out, hey, I got an hour of open time right now. What can I do in order to benefit my body and my mind at the same time? So that was 2016 when Bennett was born. So that transition, I was exiting CrossFit, in which, that just gave me a new perception of fitness overall. I think anyone who's been in CrossFit understands that the life prior to CrossFit was probably totally different. But then, coming out of it, it has definitely been an eye-opening experience too. And it led me to a few things. Like a good buddy of mine, Joe Weigel, we did a Spartan race together, and there's new things that I want to do. And that's, there's some rucking events that my buddy and I that we're looking to pursue. So it's changed, but I think the mentality of doing your best, it hasn't.
Yeah, no, I think you dropped a lot of good points there. And I think that's pretty consistent, right? Like CrossFit is a beautiful thing, but it does require a lot of demand and time because of the skill of a lot of the movements, right? You're spending a lot of time practicing those movements. And I think, there's a ton of value there. And if you have the time and the discipline to do it, it's fantastic. But how do you, the part that I like the most, you said, I got an hour, what do I do? And that's really what I want to explore is, what is the best combination? If you got 45 minutes a day, what is the best combination of movements, whether that's strength, cardiovascular activity, for somebody that is, not necessarily competing in anything currently, but wants to stay healthy, be able to spend time with their family? What are those demands? What do you need to be able to keep your mind clear? What do you need to be able to counter the effects of that sitting job that you have all day long? And what does that look like? What are you doing?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're doing a combination of some cardiovascular type things with the rucking, as well as some weight training. What's your weight training look like nowadays? Like, are you doing anything specific, or are you doing anything specific program-wise, or just kind of?
Program-wise, no. I think right now it's just move your body. And so my typical day starts off between 4 and 4:30 in the morning, and I'll wake up. We have, like I said, I have a sauna in our house. I usually turn that thing on in the morning, and then get moving. And I have a rower, and I do have an assault bike that I have in our basement, in which sometimes it's doing different durations, or Tabata for some of this stuff. And so those that don't know, I mean, your Tabata can be typically 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. And I like to play around with it. You can do some, what they call EMOMs, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, and just switching it up. And if you continue to do the same pattern, obviously a lot of people argue that, if you're doing the same repetition all the time, like, you're more likely to get injured. But I feel like the movements that I'm doing are pretty safe in that sense of, like, rowing, doing the assault bike. But the idea is, like, hey, I want to wake up. And I noticed that there's a huge difference of, Brian Callahan, when I don't work out and when I do work out in the morning. And so I definitely like the one that works out in the morning a lot better. So I've noticed that for myself. And so basically, I try to do some sort of kind of high intensity workout just to get my heart rate up, get a little sweat going on. I mean, there's times where, burpees and squats, air squats, will always do the body good. So it's constantly hitting those things. But I also feel like there's a huge importance of, definitely pushing and pulling as well. So I put up a rock wall for my son and my daughter, who never use it now, of course. So I have some extra grips. So I use those for pull-ups, and that's outside. So that's outside on my deck. So even at this time in which the weather is, pretty cold outside, like, I like getting myself in these elements where it is cold or extremely hot. And I think that helps the mindset a little bit. Like, you're doing something to accomplish, you're doing things to accomplish a goal. And so pushing and pulling. So to go back to those movements, what I like to do is obviously push-ups, try to keep a ton of pull-ups going, especially in, like, mixed grips and all these different things. I like squatting with weight. Obviously, I find that to be the most beneficial. However, it's about how the body's feeling. And if it's not, ready to deal with weight, it's going to be fine with just doing some air squats and some lunges. But then I definitely love hitting the rower a lot of late, and then the assault bike. So just a mixture of movements. I still kind of try to keep full range of motion on a lot of these things. And then, once I feel like I got a good, between 15, 20 minutes of a workout in, I hit the sauna once it's ready. And I feel like that is my time to kind of get myself mentally ready for the day. I'll do some breathing techniques as well, which is extremely difficult after a workout if you're trying to do some Wim Hof. So those are like my Monday. I mean, I would say that's probably most of the time. More recently, I've been doing longer rucks on the weekends in the morning, and those range from me getting up at 3:30 and starting the ruck at 4 o'clock, and we'll go somewhere in Cuyahoga National Park. And I have a buddy of mine that we it's almost like a professional development for us. And we'll walk depends on the path and depends on terrain, but it's anywhere from 2.5 to 4 hours. So, and it's a good time, and I'm glad that he's very chatty too. So, there's no
downtime.
Valleys in our conversation. So yeah. So, and it's good. And then, I come home later that night, I might recover with the sauna. So, but definitely trying to throw in some stretching in there too for all my PTs. So,
so your workout's very CrossFit-esque, right? I mean, I feel like the only movements that aren't in there are the kind of the high level gymnastics and the Olympic lifting stuff, but otherwise, very CrossFit-esque. And it kind of gets back to the core of varied movements, skilled and kind of working on different patterns. So, I love that. I love that idea. I do think, and this is just for me personally, I find myself trying to do more stretching in the evenings, because I'm in the same position so much more all day long, right? Well, I'm not sitting per se at a desk, but I'm working on people over top of a table all day. I'm still here all day long. And it's just, you got to get it in. Like, you got to move the other way.
Absolutely.
There's just no way around it. Yeah. What are the sauna is something I feel like you've been talking to me every time I see you, the sauna comes up.
Oh yeah.
What benefits are you noticing from the sauna?
Oh my gosh. Great question. I think clarity. I think first and foremost is like the idea that when I get out of the sauna, some people experience like this runner's high, and those athletes and those people that have done a lot of running know that sometimes at certain points, once you get past the point of discomfort and you find your rhythm and you're running a lot, you get kind of this runner's high. And what I believe the research talks about is just, you kind of a dopamine release occurs. Mm-hmm. And so I started experiencing that a lot a few years ago when I started dabbling into the sauna, and that was in a more traditional sauna. So the lava rocks, I believe that some of them call them steam saunas, in which the temperature of the room gets a lot hotter. And so, I mean, those are tough. And so basically you get out of there and I would hit it with a cold shower for a period of time and go back in. And so just the mental clarity that I would have when I would leave there was off the charts. I felt like, wow, $1 million. Like, and then more recently, I definitely find that now that I've made my body in tune with the sauna, like it's part of my routine. And as I just got off my phone with a buddy who just asked about saunas, obviously I was pro sauna and telling him to, look into it, that I do the sauna at least once a day, if not twice. I just recently purchased mine last year. It's in our basement, and I can probably count the days on one hand of the times that I have not used the sauna. And that's how much I feel like that has helped me during the times in which, you don't want to do something. And so, and I think if a person has the opportunity, and obviously with health concerns, and if they check out with their physician and everything's good, there's no reason why. Like, if you can afford it and you have one, you can't just sit, like, you sit down and you sweat like you're running a marathon. And the first time I did it, I was like, man, this is something else. And so, and the more and more I got into it, the more and more I looked into the research. And obviously it's a big thing over across the pond. And I think more people here in America are adopting this mindset that, like, oh, this is something that's good for your body and whatnot. But I've been a steady user of the sauna for actually since my first son was born. So 4 years now. And that was actually one of my ways in which I was able to, I felt like, kind of keep up some of my fitness. And I believe that there's some correlations between endurance and sauna use too, as well as keeping muscle mass as well. But those are like some of the extra benefits. But for me, like when my son was born and we were running from hospital to the house and all this other stuff, and we had a little limited time, it was like, what can I do in an hour? And sometimes it would be like, hey, what can I do in a half an hour? And as the time starts dwindling, like, an option was always going into the sauna and just sweating it out. And so that's kind of how it started. And I'm an avid user and advocate for the sauna. If no one's tried it so far, I mean, it's definitely, I felt like, a game changer.
What sauna did you buy? Like, what type of sauna do you have?
So I have an infrared sauna. We are members through Costco, and they had a 3-person sauna that seems to be pretty much on cycle through their website that we purchased. So I think it's Dynamics is, I believe, the brand. And the infrared, basically, from how I understand it, is that a traditional sauna heats up the air around you. And so the air can be between 175 degrees to over 200 degrees, depending on the setting.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones that have the lava rocks and just looks like a little oven in the room. An infrared has panels inside the box that you're in. And basically the infrared wavelengths can penetrate deeper into the muscle tissue, in which can make you sweat more. And it's not necessarily as hot as a traditional sauna. And so ours ranges from, if you let it warm up for a half an hour, it's between 135. And if you let it warm up more to 45 minutes, it's like 135 to 145. So, but still, like, when you get in there, I mean, it's warm, but you start to sweat right away. Where I felt like when I was in the hotter one, like, it would take me a period of time to start sweating, or the more traditional one, it would take me more time to start sweating. So it's definitely different, but I think the results are very similar. And I think some of the studies that are coming out are saying, 20 minutes in a traditional sauna, you'll get these type of benefits, and then you have to spend close to 45 minutes in an infrared. So, and my question was, okay, is this all just in one shot, one time? Can I take a break? But regardless, I'm in there quite often. I feel like I'm reaping the benefits of it. And so, I just told my buddy, I was like, hey, it's literally probably one of my favorite purchases behind maybe my smoker that I have for cooking. So
yeah, I have to look more into the research. I actually just saw something this morning. It was a Rhonda Patrick YouTube video, and I clicked on it because she was talking about IGF-1 and growth hormone, and kind of looking at the pros and cons of, we want to stimulate IGF-1, the growth factor and growth hormone, from a performance standpoint to put on lean muscle mass. But when you look at all the aging research that's out there, more growth hormone seems to decrease longevity. And so it was kind of talking about that. But she mentioned, I believe, I'm going to probably say this wrong, but I believe that 30 minutes of sauna has been shown to increase growth hormone and IGF-1 production. So that might be the function of some of the muscle mass and those kinds of things. Which is super, if you can start to trigger some of those hormonal things with, as you say, you're just going in there and hanging out for a half hour. I could see, man, that could be some really cool benefits. Plus, let's face it, 30 minutes of just quiet time alone with your thoughts, that doesn't hurt either,
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think that's part of it. And, the more and more I'm changing my, the way I look at, I mean, not the way I look at fitness, but just how I'm doing fitness is, that's part of it. And so, in the job that I'm currently in, it's definitely, it can be very mentally taxing for a lot of people. And kind of my study right now that I'm looking towards is actually, you mentioned something about longevity. It's longevity and administration, and kind of what are those factors that allow a younger individual like myself entering administration. I still got a long time before I retire. So what are those benefits that will help me? And so, there's a variety of factors, and there's numerous studies that talk about longevity in administration. But, one of it is definitely, and I hope to possibly explore a little bit more about just the overall health. And I think, going back to the sauna and being there, just with your thoughts. And there's some times where I will get, into a meditative state, and just where I just need to relax, and I need to, work this out with myself. And so, and those have been extremely helpful times. To whereas, sometimes I'll get in there and I got to get distracted by something, like we can put on a TV and we can watch through the glass window or whatever. But at times, I mean, it's one of those things where it's just checking yourself, just take that time to really analyze, like, what are you doing and why are you doing it? Or what's that struggle that you're dealing with right now? And, are you taking all the approaches? Are you taking in everything that factors into this decision? Because, when you start, I guess, you talk about moving up, like, the weight of responsibility becomes more and more. And I keep going back to understanding your why, like, Start with Why by Simon Sinek. And so I think that that's extremely important. And as long as you come back and you're still rooted in the reasons why you're making these decisions, and that you can sleep well at night, I think that's another part, of just being in the present time. And if that's being in a sauna, sweating it out and making yourself sit there and think about those thoughts, I think that makes you just a better person overall. And I think you're killing multiple birds with one stone, in the sense of, like, hey, you're getting exercise, you're becoming more thoughtful in your process. And it's just possibly making you a better person overall. So that's one thing that I kind of want to explore more, is through my doctoral degree, is this aspect of longevity. And I think healthy lifestyles is a huge part of it.
That resonates with me so well. So healthcare burnout is huge as well, right? Like, you got a lot of stressors, you're dealing with somebody else's health. And I think that's something that over, I've been on my own business wise for 4 years, like the stress of that, the uncertainty of it, the responsibility that comes of being a solo provider, where a lot of times people are seeing you for direct care, in handling those stresses and understanding why you're taking on those stresses is definitely a challenge. And I'm sure anybody in any profession will resonate with that as well. So I am very intrigued to see kind of where you go with your research in that. And, we'll obviously be in touch, but I'd be curious to see what you find. And, healthcare workers, we're looking at, how much time does it take to do documentation, and how much time are you spending doing this, and how much time are you spending, and that's a big part of it. But,
oh yeah.
But so I have not done a lot of sauna. I mean, I've been in them a handful of times, but I wouldn't say that I've ever done it consistently. I'm curious to see, and I'm gonna play with this a little bit, but prior to COVID being what it was, we used to do a lot of yoga, and you'd be in a heated room and you do some movement stuff. My favorite part of a yoga class, though, is when you get done at Shavasana and you're just kind of laying there. I feel like I've made more good life decisions in that 10-minute window like, you're just like, oh, that's what I was thinking about, and that's how I'm going to solve this problem. Whatever it is. It would be interesting to
Yep.
see if kind of that workout combined with heat in kind of that clarity time, if you have some of that clarity, how it relates.
Yeah. You make a good point. And I would mention just the fact that I have an experience of doing now. I mentioned like right now, like I'm kind of like in my basement. I'm not totally scared of the elements. Our garage is kind of taken over by kids stuff right now and lawnmowers and whatever else. But I mean, we still have a gym in our garage in which, had to get pretty fancy with some creative ideas, but we still have like pretty much a full set gym in our garage in which, weight training does occur. But right now it's more just like moving my body in the morning, getting in the sauna. But I would say that when we do, if the weather is nice and we get a chance to get outside and do some weightlifting or more complex movements with a barbell, and then we go into the sauna, it's way more difficult to stay in there for a longer period of time. And maybe that's because your heart rate's already jacked and you already went through a grueling workout. But I have noticed that there is a difference of duration in which I stay in that sauna based on the intensity of my workout prior. So, and I don't think that would be like earth shattering, but it is definitely noticeable. And so, but I definitely like the elements of changing it up. And I don't know if you saw, but like just the opposite of heat, going to ice baths. I don't know if I sent you the text, but I have, I wanted to make this thing work. So I bought maybe a 90-gallon drum of a trash can, and I fixed it up, and I had like a drain on it, and I did all this stuff. So basically I do ice baths.
How long have you been doing this?
This started this summer.
Okay. I haven't seen this.
Towards the tail end of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send you a picture. It's pretty funny. But it's, it's one of those things to where it's weird. Like we recently moved. And so when we had city water, I would get pretty cold water. Somehow being in the country now and we have a well, I don't get as cold of water. So I'm not taking these ice cold showers like I used to be doing. And so, but I love the experience of another challenging aspect, a mental thing. And I think my body reacts to cold way worse than heat. And so that was another challenge. So, but basically I have like a little stool and I get myself in this, glorified trash can of water and ice, and I sit in it, and it's challenging. I wish I did it more, but now that the weather has turned and hopefully we'll continue to have snow, I do have a walkout basement in which I'll just go outside and sit down. Sometimes I'll lay in the snow but I think the idea of just switching your body, getting your body uncomfortable with certain things. And going all the way back to that CrossFit mentality, being comfortable with uncomfortable, is still kind of, sitting around in my head and saying, you know what, we can do tough stuff, whatever it is. And that's one thing that, we're teaching our kids is you can do tough things. Now it's not go lay out in the snow like daddy's doing right now, but it's the fact that like, let's challenge ourselves. And the more and more I look into it, and whether that's the sauna or ice baths or being in the cold, there's benefits to that. And so obviously if you take it to an extreme, there's, could be detrimental aspects to it, but, putting yourself out there and, like this morning, I did a workout on our deck and it's 30 degrees outside. So it's just, switching it up a little bit. And so, but yeah, the ice bath thing is a new thing, but I always wanted to do it. So my wife granted me that permission to put the trash can in the basement.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. I mean, you can talk about the physiology of these things like sauna and ice bath and whatever, but the mental aspect of that is probably just as or more important, right? That like getting over that hurdle of, all right, this is going to suck, but I'm going to do it anyway. And kind of getting your mind to go to that place. And I was doing it a little bit this summer. We have an above ground pool now. And it's certainly not ice bath cold, but I feel like in my old age, I've become a wimp to cold water. Like we used to do ice baths when I coached at Akron General, and we were doing like performance coaching. We used to do ice baths pretty much every workout. Like after the workout, they had a whirlpool with an ice machine, and we'd fill that thing up and hop in. And I remember not liking it, but kind of like fun. It would give you this like high, this rush real quick that I enjoyed. And
Sure.
but now I feel like, man, I'm super wimpy. Like I just don't want anything to do with it. How are you?
Yeah.
Go ahead. How are you getting ice
I
in
was just going to say, oh, sorry. You get ice in it?
Well, what were you going to say? And then my second question was, how are you filling this thing with ice? Because I've thought of that, but you'd have to buy ice bags every day.
Sure. Yeah. So, what I was going to say is just like, it's like anything. It's you just have to be exposed to it more. And I think, if you take big gaps in which like you're not, exposing yourself to either a cold shower or cold environments, like, yeah, it's awful. Like it's, but by the time March comes around, everyone's like, all right, like we get it. Like it's cold out and, we can do it. But, when I took a break from taking these cold showers, I remember the first time I was like, ooh, this is new. But I think the more and more you're doing it, just like anything, your body will adapt to it. But yeah, my thing is, this engineering feat that I did in my basement with this trash can is not sustainable for a long period of time. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, I had to buy bags of ice, and it's pretty. Let's just say it's not going to work out for much longer than a year the way I'm doing it, because I would get the outside hose and I would bring it in. It's in our basement. It's in our like unfinished side, so I make it work. However, I don't know if it will continue to stay that way, but every few days I will have to drain some of the water and then add some ice to it. But it's definitely something I need to, I want to explore more. I feel like there's, the sauna's got something, but I don't know if there's much in the sense of like finding ice bath material stuff. You can buy a trough for farm animals and put it outside, but I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's very limited, I think, right now.
Yeah. There's a couple of things out there that I've seen, because I looked at, could you do a facility with an ice bath? And then the trouble is cleaning it all the time, right? Because you got to sterilize it. But
sure.
There's I might have lost you. There's a company on the west side somewhere that definitely has it. And it's kind of cool. You still there, Brian?
Yeah. Sorry. I was I just lost it here for a second.
I hear you, but your video's gone. We got this really cool picture. We got this really cool picture of you on here, though. That
it comes up my bow tie.
Yeah, it's cute. Oh, you got a bow tie on. That's even better.
I'm doing that for all my pictures. Sorry about that.
I can edit that out, but I'm probably going to keep the photo.
There you go. Perfect.
Anyway. Yeah, it's cool that you, when you said something about how we get used to the cold this year, I intentionally wore short sleeves and shorts outside as it was getting colder, and at night and stuff, I'll go out in my shorts, literally because I didn't want to be as cold when I went steelhead fishing.
Nice.
I didn't want my feet. I was like, I'm going to just start wearing shorts outside so that my feet don't get cold and I have to stop fishing. I can stay in the river longer. And I haven't been fishing as much. Huh?
Sure. Is that the one reason why you stop? Is that why you give up? Because your feet get cold, or is it not getting fish?
It's never not getting fish. Not
nice.
Normally, so from a cold standpoint, there are times where your feet are just so numb that you can't, like, you feel like you can't feel them and it's just time to get out. But it's just less comfortable, right? And I feel like this year,
sure.
I haven't been out in super cold, but I've been out in, 32 degrees, and I don't know. Maybe I just dressed right. Maybe I'm getting used to the cold, but I felt good. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, just got it. Now it's getting cold. So we'll find out if my effort is worth it or not. But no, from a fish standpoint, it's almost motivating when you're not catching them, if that makes sense. Because you're like,
yeah,
right,
you're like,
what do I got to do what do I got to do to get one here? Like, why haven't I caught a fish yet? And so you got to start changing things and making decisions and like, how do I catch a fish in this moment? So very rarely will not catching them deter me.
Nice.
Unless
that's the attitude I need.
Yeah. Unless I got 10,000 other things to do that day and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to catch anything, then it's like, all right, it's just time to call it. But
Sure.
I try not to. One of these days we're going to get you out there.
Yeah. I had a pretty good experience with the father-in-law doing it. So it's pretty funny because he has all the equipment and he has got to like zip me up like a little 12-year-old boy. I'm like, thanks, Dad. So it's always a good time, but you know, we had a blast, and so you know, it's something new, you know, for me to do that with him, and you know, getting out there and trying something new. It's just cool. It's just a new experience, and I think the more and more we get to be outside and in nature, it's been helpful just to clear the mind. I mean, it's definitely, I feel like that's probably the biggest factor. Not just catching fish, but you know, just you know, being able to think about, you know, being in a nice setting and having the stream go between your legs. I mean, that's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is for me. No matter what else is going on, you want to talk about a distraction. Like I can get on a river and maybe it's the environment, maybe it's my focus on making those decisions or whatever, but like everything goes away and I'm just fishing for that period of time. And it's definitely a reset for me. So it's just something I have to make sure I keep doing, because otherwise you get so like, you can just feel yourself kind of ramping up and like, I need to go. And then you get out and you're like, everything's clear again, you know? So, I hope everybody has something, whether it's, I feel like the cyclists get that. I feel like the runners get that with their running. Fishing is something that's always kind of done it for me, but I hope everybody has something that like just resets them, you know, where you're kind of like back to baseline.
Absolutely.
We can do it with rucks. We'll put the Go Ruck packs on, put 20 pounds on the back.
There we go.
Now you got fishing plus you got some physical activity in there too.
Plus some weight.
Move some weight around.
That's a good idea. That's gonna be something.
It could be a new thing. Are you still doing the what did you mention with me last time? You're doing like a book club style with the rucks. Are you guys still messing with that?
Yeah. Well, kind of with COVID, and we kind of so most of it's with administrators, and so school administrators, and so we kind of taken a pause a little bit, but we were able to get a book in, and so the idea was, and this is another part of my possible dissertation, which I want to explore, is like mentorship, and so and there's just some good discussions about, you know, talking about longevity through administration. Mentorship is an aspect that I think is overlooked in professional development. And so, you know, we have a lot of books that we get from various companies and various organizations. So, but the idea came from one, we were rucking, and we were rucking for, you know, like I said, 3 hours at times, 2 to 3 hours, maybe even longer sometimes. And so, you know, and granted, we had some good content in what you're talking about, but sometimes, you know, we could always, you know, refer back to, hey, this reading or this article or something like that. And so we had some people that were interested in doing this, and it's called, and I just made up a basic name of Read, Lead, and Ruck. Basically, the idea is that, you know, we're talking about leaders, people that want to continue to do better. And the old saying is leaders are readers. And so the fact that, you know, we are reading books to better ourselves, and then we kind of get together in the sense of rucking, and then we just recap those chapters that we're reading. And so, and depending on the group, I got a guy who's very getting after it for rucking, so he would want to go longer. But some of the people, you know, it might have been the first time, so there's been some challenges of finding certain paths or you know, navigating to where it kind of meets everyone's needs for the rucking part. But the idea was more just I wanted to add a different element to a book club. Now, I've done some virtual book clubs with leadership books in a Zoom setting, which is fine. It's great. I mean, obviously you get to collaborate with other people, and you get to talk about their experiences, and you get to hear, you know, how they handle certain situations. But being a fitness person and I wanted to add that element in there, I thought it would be pretty unique to have, just a book club with people that are going outside to walk. Like we're going at a pace where everyone can talk, that everyone can do something. And so, small groups when we were doing it, but then obviously with the uptick in COVID cases around the area, a lot of people were like, yeah, maybe not right now. So right now it's kind of put on hold, but it was something in which I felt like the need for mentorship along with reading, along with some fitness, it kind of hit all those aspects.
Yeah, I love the idea. I mean, because I drive so far to work every day now, I've done a lot more listening to audiobooks, and there's so many books where you listen to them, you're like, why didn't I know this 10 years ago or 5 years ago? Or, why hadn't I read this? Like, it's just laziness. I should have been reading these books. Whether it's, a leadership type book, a self-help type book, or finance types. I mean, pick your poison, but there's so much information. And
Yep.
the motivation to meet with somebody and know you're going to discuss a topic, I feel like would be huge. I mean, I'd love to see you figure out a way. I think I mentioned this last time too. How could you combine that and make that virtual? Where we're on maybe it's a cellular Zoom call, or because then you could eliminate the COVID piece, and I could go hiking in my, Mill Creek Park in Youngstown while you guys are in Cuyahoga, and we could all kind of communicate and have a conversation. I think it's a really sweet idea. I think it's a really cool idea.
Yeah. Limiting those barriers. And I definitely thought about that, and I haven't put too much mental real estate in that aspect, but yeah, I think the more, like, I feel like people want to connect, especially more and more at this time in which we're becoming more isolated, and hopefully there seems to be light at the end of the tunnel here, hopefully sooner rather than later, but the fact that we still want to connect with everyone, and so being able to do so and possibly get engaged in these conversations, and I felt like when I go on these rucks and we have these conversations, like that professional development for 3 hours, like I'll be sitting, the whole day, the next day, even into the next week, recapping the conversation that we're having, and understanding, kind of viewpoints, and just like, man, that was a really good line, or something, like someone said something in which just like hit home. And so, that was one thing that I felt was very helpful when we would do this. And I guess I kind of had a passion before this, just as a young administrator. I've been seeking out just, I guess, advice from senior administrators and people outside of my district, people inside my district as well, but around Northeast Ohio. And I would, I reach out to them, and a lot of people are very open to communicate and talk about this, because I would just say, hey, I'm early on in my career, and I see that, obviously you are, XYZ down the path in your career. Like, I would like to conversate with you just to see what advice or what led you to where you are now. And so just understanding the path a little bit more in this new field for me was part of it. And being with a group of administrators is very unique. I mean, everyone, I can see like a very common thread between all of us. And that's the idea of like doing more, doing what's right for kids, being passionate about what you do. And so it's very interesting to see how it comes out in a lot of different people. So, a lot of it was just, relationship based. And I think that's why a lot of people get into education. It's because you want to be with kids and work with other kids. And as administrator, you're kind of splitting the time between kids and adults, but it's still relationship based. And so, I love to listen, and I love to, this is probably the most I've talked before, but I love hearing people's stories and just, understanding where they were, time and place, and those decisions that they made. So it was a big combination of a lot of things that made me want to do this.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's why I kind of want to start a podcast, is I love the same thing, right? Like, what are people doing that's successful, and what can you take from that and learn from that? And that pursuit of knowledge, I think is just so invaluable, right? Just trying to figure little things out, and how do you apply them to your world? But I think there's I think this podcast has been pretty good. We're coming up on an hour, man. I figured we would.
And got a lot of content in there. How about
We
that?
did, man. We
That's
did get
good.
some.
And I love.
Hmm?
I love that, you started this. I thought that was a great idea. And, the more and more I thought about it, because I love podcasts too, listening to them and just hearing like how a lot of people started. And a lot of people started just talking to other people. And then, this is something that became a passion. And, if you're listening to Tim Ferriss or Joe Rogan, you look at their earlier recordings. It wasn't much, and it's one of those things where now they are now they're a huge resource for a lot of people to get more information on certain topics, which is wild. And I think if you have your group of followers that understand who you are and they like the content that you're spitting out, and it's helping them. I think that's a plus. I think that's a win. And the idea in your position in which you're gaining more understanding of other people's worlds, I think that just helps you as a person, whether you agree with what they do or not. And I'm just thinking more of a Joe Rogan type of his experience that he's doing with people. Mm-hmm. He has a variety of people on there in which, he doesn't always agree with, and which is great. And I think those conversations that you have with, those individuals, I think that just makes you more conscientious as a person. And I think, hopefully overall, it makes you more thoughtful in your actions and more purposeful in what you do in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I'm fortunate with my job that I get to meet so many like just good people. And, I love being able to help people and all that kind of stuff that you would think of. But one of my favorite parts of the job is just hearing people's stories and learning lessons from them. And, I get to talk to people that are, you get younger people all the way up into people that are, in their 80s and 90s. And I've learned so much from my patients that it just felt like we should share some of that. Right. So let's talk to these people that have experienced life and hopefully can relate to, when I listen to you talk and things that you've made decisions on, like, I've definitely been, now with a 1.5-year-old myself, like I can feel those decisions happening. And it just, again, if we can learn from other people, it has to be helpful. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
So as we wrap this up, is there anything else? Is there one last thing you'd like to leave with anybody listening, or something you'd like to, if you could say, hey, focus on this and see if it would help somebody?
Yeah, I think, the one thing, I'm on Twitter, and it's more for, I kind of split it between this idea of, Brian Callahan as an administrator / someone just to motivate other people. And so what I do a lot is I hashtag earn your sunrise. And basically, that I'm stealing it from someone, so I can't take credit for it. But the idea is that, get up and accomplish something early on. And, whether it's not hitting the snooze button, that's an accomplishment. Get up out of bed, move your body. I feel like that helps us, not only you, but the people you're around. And so I kind of fell into this knack of early riser, getting things done. I think there's some pride in doing stuff in which other people aren't doing it. And so, and I'm stealing some stuff from David Goggins and some Jocko stuff.
Sounds Jocko,
but,
yeah.
The fact that definitely his leadership style. But the fact that you're doing something to better yourself, and if that is a challenge of waking up early on, that is an aspect. And then moving your body, like, hey, you got to get it in. And my life right now is busy, and I know there's plenty of people who have busier lives, but those stresses, those things, you got to find an outlet. And for me, it's waking up early, make sure I take care of my basic needs of my health, and that's going to be working out, sauna, throughout the day, possibly fasting, and some making sure I'm eating the right foods when I do. But it's accomplishing something early on, just to build that confidence moving forward. life is tough, but be tougher. And I think that's
well said.
Just a mindset that we got to do. I mean, especially in these times, we got to be creative with what we do. And but yeah, I think everyone has their story. You're the author of your own book. Would someone want to read it when you have to write that last page? So that's kind of how my mindset is right now.
We're gonna put a sign up in the office that life is tough, but be tougher. I'm gonna quote you. We're gonna put a sign up. We're gonna put a sign up in the new office. I like it. I love it. All right, man.
It for you.
Yeah, dude. I was looking through my phone. I found some artwork of yours from when I was looking to design my first logo.
Yes.
I'm gonna put in the show notes. It's sweet.
Do it. Yeah, that's back in the day.
It's like 6 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, awesome.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. So will you have a link for this?
Yeah. So it'll be on YouTube. It'll be on my website, PHYTforfunction.com. It'll be on Apple. It'll be on Spotify, and probably some other random podcasts. Yeah, man. We're putting it out there.
Do you want my Twitter handle and all that stuff, or what?
Yeah, man. Where can people find you?
I am. I was thinking about just sending you a text. But,
we'll do that too.
Yeah. So my Twitter handle is Brian __. So there's 2 underscores. Callahan, Callahan. And that's pretty much it. That's the only way you're gonna find me.
That's where your stuff's at. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, and then I'm on LinkedIn and stuff like that for so Brian Callahan. I got a bow tie on my picture, so it's all good. I'm pretty sure that's only Callahan that has bow tie on, so find me there. But yeah, I can add those to the show notes, or I can send it to you.
Yeah, we'll put them in the notes. All right, man. I appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
Dude, this was fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna shut it.